Good morning, everyone, and welcome this morning to our service of Multifaith Readings and Reflection. My name is Bavli. I am one of the spiritual care chaplains here, and I'd like to thank you all for joining us today. This service of Multifaith Readings and Reflection, you'll see throughout prayers and scriptures which represent some of our multi-faith community. We encourage everyone to participate in all aspects of the service and to enjoy and celebrate those aspects they have found most supportive and helpful to you. We hope that everyone will learn something new today, and in that spirit, keep an open mind throughout. Today's theme will be on love. So we have our opening reflection. This is a prayer from St. Francis. Lord, make me an instrument of your peace. Where there is hatred, let me sow love. Where there is injury, pardon. And when there is doubt, faith. Where there is despair, hope. And where there is darkness, light. Where there is sadness, joy. O Divine Master, grant that I may not so much seek to be consoled as to console, to be understood as to understand, to be loved as to love. For it is in giving that we receive, and it is in pardoning that we are pardoned. It is in dying that we are born again to eternal life. Our next reading comes to us from the Hindu tradition, and this comes from the Bhagavad Gita. I am ever present into those who have realized me in every creature. Seeing all my life as my manifestation, they are never separated from me. They worship me in the hearts of all, and all their actions precede me. Whenever they may live, they abide in me. When a person responds to the joys and the sorrows of others, as if they were his own, he has attained the highest state of spiritual union. Our next reading comes to us from the Jewish tradition, and this is Psalm 128. Happy is everyone who fears the Eternal One, and who walks in God's ways. You shall eat the fruit of the labor of your hands, and you shall be happy, and it shall go well with you. Your wife will be like a fruitful vine within your house. Your children will be like olive shoots around your table. Thus shall the man be blessed who fears the Eternal One. The Eternal One blesses you from Zion. May you see the prosperity of Jerusalem all the days of your life, and may you see your children's children. The next reading comes to us from the Muslim tradition, and this comes to us from the Quran, Surah 48. We have appointed a law and a practice for every one of you. Had Allah willed, He would have made you a single community, and He wanted to test you regarding what has come to you. So compete with each other in doing good. Every one of you will return to Allah, and He will inform you regarding the things about which you deferred. Our next reading comes to us from the Christian tradition, and this comes from the first book of John. Beloved, let us love one another, for love is of God, and he who loves is born of God and knows God. He who does not love does not know God, for God is love. No man has ever seen God. If we love one another, God abides in us, and his love is perfected in us. By this we know that we abide in him and he in us, because he has given us of his own Spirit. There is no fear in love, but perfect love casts out fear. For fear has to do with punishment, and he who fears is not perfected in love. We love because he first loved us. If anyone says, I love God, and hates his brother, he is a liar. For he who does not love his brother, whom he has seen, cannot love God, whom he has not seen. Our next reading comes to us from the Buddhist tradition. He lets his mind enter one quarter of the world with thoughts of love, and so the second, and so the third, and so the fourth. And thus the whole wide world, above, below, around, and everywhere, does he continue to pervade with the heart of love, far-reaching, exalted, beyond measure. Just as a mighty trumpeter makes himself heard, and that without difficulty in all the four directions. Even so, of all things that have the shape of life, there is not one that he passes by or leaves aside, but regards them all with mind set free and deep felt love. Verily, this is the way to the state of union with the Brahman. Good morning, everyone, and thank you again for joining us this morning for our service of Multifaith Readings and Reflection. Today's theme is on love, so I'll share a few words with you on love. As we all know, love is a very powerful emotion, and we can experience it in extreme highs or extreme lows. Love, when we are surrounded by family, by friends, by loved ones, and significant others. And love, when we are torn apart, families are separated, and our significant others might betray us. I'll share a little bit about my own personal love life in the past and dealing with different partners that I've had. So, growing up, I was in a few relationships. 3 of them that were significant, I would identify. 2 of them ended with the girl cheating on me. Now, I'm not saying that the girls were bad, but that was the outcome. There were certain circumstances that were present in the relationship that instigated the cheating to take place. At that time, it was the greatest pain that I experienced in a very long time. I was betrayed. I felt let down by someone who I trusted and meant the world to me. And this was not an easy process and not an easy pill to swallow. So, the question becomes, why are we drawn to each other? Why do we do things for others? I think that we all function because we have the ability to love. We all function because we want to be loved and cared for. This is in all human nature, and it drives us in all our pursuits. Each of us has a history of being accepted or rejected, and with it a past history of pain and difficulties in all types of relationships. However, we all yearn for communion and belonging, but at the same time, we fear it because we know that little voice at the back of our heads that is telling us, they will let you down. Don't trust them. They will stab you in the back. Love is what we want, yet it is what we also fear the most. Love makes us vulnerable and open, and we can be hurt through rejection and potential separation. We may crave for love, but then be frightened of losing our liberty and potentially our creativity. We want to belong to a group, but we fear a certain death in the group because we may not be seen as unique. We want love, but fear the dependence and the commitment it implies. We fear being used, manipulated, smothered, potentially spoiled. We are also ambivalent toward love, communion, and belonging. But it is in this deep vulnerability that we allow ourselves the ability to love and to trust. By being vulnerable and allowing ourselves to be exposed, that is when trust is created. Love is not something we give or get. It is something that we nurture and grow. A connection that can only be cultivated between people when it exists within each one of them. We can only love others as much as we love ourselves. Shame, blame, disrespect, betrayal, and the withholding of affection damage the roots from which love can potentially grow. Love can only survive these injuries if they are acknowledged and healed. We are biologically, cognitively, physically, and spiritually wired to love, to be loved, and to belong with the group. When these needs are not met, we do not function as we are meant to. We break, we fall apart, we grow numb, we ache, we hurt others, we get sick. There's a saying that says, hurt people hurt people. And that's what happens when love and trust is broken. There are certainly other causes of illnesses, numbness, and hurt, but the absence of love and belonging will certainly lead to suffering. When I arrive to the bedside and connect with some of you, other patients, family members, almost every time the patient makes a positive comment, whether it's about the nurse she or he has, or the care they are receiving. I agree that a hospital setting is not pleasant and can be depressing, but if we allow ourselves to see that the nurse who comes to the bedside, the physiotherapist who helps us to learn to walk again, or the spiritual care chaplain who just maybe listens and empathizes, who has the ability to care for you, then slowly we learn to trust them, and this is the beginning of creating potentially a loving relationship. Sometimes this is not possible, but if we continue to explore the options, taking into account our situation, then we have the ability to foster loving relationships. Today's readings remind us of this theme. The Hindu reading said, when a person responds to the joys and the sorrows of others as if they were his own, they have attained the highest state of spiritual union. The Jewish reading reminds us that when we are conscious of the Eternal One, that we will be happy in the sight of other people. The Muslim reading says that when we do good to others, Allah will remind us of this joy that we have done. And the Christian reading says that even when we are afraid and have love, that love will always cast out fear, because perfect love will always prevail in our lives. So, back to the relationships, my relationships that I mentioned earlier. So I mentioned 2 of my relationships ended with the girl cheating. During that time I was really down on myself and constantly examining what could I have done differently, or what can I do differently in future relationships. What I learned is that we constantly need to infuse our lives with actions. Don't wait for it to happen, make it happen. Make your own future. Make your own hope and make your own love. Sometimes we sit down, we pout, and we think, and we think, and we think, but we don't act. Make it happen. Whatever your beliefs, honor your Creator, not by passively waiting for love to come down from above, but by doing what you can to make love happen here and now. Love is meant to be lived and constantly nourished in all that we do. Now we will have our concluding reflection. All humanity shall walk the path of love. True peace and the world of joy cannot be realized without love. Happiness is the same. Can you feel happiness alone? You can only feel true happiness when you are able to have a reciprocal relationship of love with others. Freedom is the same. You cannot experience freedom alone. It can only be achieved through love and within love. You don't feel tired in the place of true love. No matter how exhausted you are, if you are intoxicated with love and you burst into tears out of love, then your tiredness will suddenly disappear. When you feel true love, you don't feel hungry or tired. Also, you do not feel afraid of death. Thank you so much for everyone for joining us for today's service. I hope you have enjoyed that. If you would like to reach out to Spiritual Care, our information is located on the Spiritual Care icon on your iPads. Also, at the same time, you can connect with your nurse and they can reach out to us as well too. Thank you everyone, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your day, and we'll see you next week.